here's Drake Toll and Armstrong Sims.
Welcome back into the Petty Clinic Low T Bears Den. Happy Tuesday, everybody. A big week across Baylor athletics this week. Breaking it down from track to field to men's tennis. It's still going on. Softball just wrapped up. Women's tennis yesterday. And, of course, the biggest show on dirt this week. I'm not sure. That's not overused or a cliche, is it, Coach Strauss? I think the biggest show on dirt may have just now been coined.
I think you should patent that right now.
I should copyright it. We can make a lot of money off of that one now. And joining the show to help us break down a big week across baseball. I mean, these guys are in Bricktown for the Big 12 Championship Tournament with a shot to help bolster a postseason resume on the line. Coach Jon Strauss, the pitching coach, joins us now. Coach, thanks for coming on with us.
Of course. Excited to be here.
Oh, excited to have you and excited for a full week of baseball. I hope that the weather looks better there. I know Bricktown and Oklahoma City, this tournament is famous for rain, probably more famous for rain than it is anything else. But hopefully the weather's holding up for you guys.
Yeah, we practiced at 9 this morning, so it looks like there's some rain right now, so other guys might not get to practice, but we got ours in.
At least you got that. At least you got the opening day of getting there, getting warm, and getting ready for a tournament where, Coach, I mean, you know, we talked to Glenn Moore on the show last week about his softball team making the postseason, and he talked to us. He said, you know, his focus is game by game, and he's really trying to take things, again, one game at a time. It's the greatest cliche in sports, but that he's still got that eye, that side eye on RPI and where his team is, because the postseason, making the NCAA tournament is a big goal for his program. When it comes to you guys, is that something that you're eyeing coming into this tournament, helping build your resume to make that postseason?
Well, definitely. Last couple of weeks didn't go well for us, so we still have some work to do in our eyes. You can't hide from the RPI. It's there everywhere you go, so everyone sees it. But when you play the game, you just got to go out there and play good baseball. And then at the end of the day, you can look at the website and check your RPI, but it can kind of drive you crazy by following it up to the minute.
Coach, when you take a look at this season, the staff that you guys have, I know the narrative coming into the year was you got a lot of older arms, experienced arms, and you mix those with some younger bats. And really, if you take a look at the top 3 or 4 guys that folks are talking about coming into this season that would be on the bump, I mean, that has just been thrown for a loop and mixed all around, and you guys have put together a group of guys that are so solid but not maybe what folks expected. What has this year been like for you from a pitching standpoint with this team?
Well, it wasn't the way we drew it up in the beginning. We knew how we were going to end the game, and that's always a good start with Luke Boyd. But coming in, was Tyler going to be a guy? Was Blake Helton going to take a step? A couple other guys that haven't really done much for us this year. So, we kind of pieced it together early in the season. We tried to get everybody involved. That didn't go real well with our first couple weekends, and kind of tightened the ship a little bit, used a lot of older guys, a little bit of experience, got us going on a winning streak, and everybody kind of settled into their roles and got us to this point right now.
Coach, you talk about that winning streak. I mean, looking at the season and the first couple run totals, even in that opener, 7 runs allowed, then you got 9 and another 7 to UTRGV, the 12 against A&M, 9 Oklahoma. I mean, the run differential in those games, and then you get into that win streak and just your guys are shutting teams down. Was there an adjustment, a message? Was there something that led to this pitching staff tightening things up?
Well, it's just I kind of started using guys that I trusted. Like I said, I gave everybody the opportunity to go out there, the young guys, the old guys. We got a lot of arms. And then once we got to a point where we needed to start winning games, you started relying on guys that had success and kept giving the ball to Tyler and Hayden and Helton. They kept doing well. And then the bullpen was kind of locking it down with Logan and Lekich and Jimmy and Boyd. So that just kind of let us go, and our starters started getting deeper as the pitch count's getting built, and won us a lot of games. So it's a good recipe for success.
Coach, you know, I'm looking here at some of these pitchers that have thrown these last couple of years for you and your program, and there's no one more consistent that I can find. He's the Kevin Kopps of the Big 12, if not better. Luke Boyd. I mean, this guy, his consistency is remarkable. When you have someone like him in your bullpen, first, how much better does that make this team?
Well, it makes it easier to plan, because if I know that the 9th and part of the 8th is already done, then that kind of sets up the staff for the rest of the game. That's how I look. I always look backwards and, okay, how do I get to Luke Boyd? When do I get to him? Who can I use now? So having a guy like that, which we've had over the years, we're pretty fortunate to have him. And then he fought at the beginning with Kyle Hill and then Troy Montgomery. We've had that our entire time here at Baylor. And, I'm trying to figure out how to get Luke Boyd here for a 6th year. I'm not too sure that's going to be able to happen, but I'll take him for the rest of my career if I could.
Along with that, you talk about how much better it makes the team when you've got other guys in the bullpen, even a couple of younger arms. I mean, I look at Caley, who is coming out there as a freshman. I mean, that's just the little dude whose hat's too big for his head. And the things that he can learn from a guy like Luke Boyd, how much better in turn does Boyd make the rest of this pitching staff?
That's kind of something that we've passed on over the years. Luke Boyd was just trying to figure himself out a few years ago. He didn't pitch very well for a couple of years, and he learned from those older guys, and he got better and learned, all this failure that he had was going to make him better, and it did. And hopefully he can pass it on because, Caley had a rough start to the season. We thought very highly of him, but it didn't go very well, and he's matured and he's pitched some big innings for us. So hopefully we can pass it on enough to the younger guys before our old guys leave, and they can keep passing it on. That's how your staffs continue to be successful.
Coach, coming into the year, Luke Boyd was a name that I knew, and I was ready for Luke Boyd to come out and put the numbers that he's put up so far, and we had him on the show and talked about how his save numbers would be astronomical had the batters not just been so hot for Baylor this year and putting you guys ahead by 3 or more runs so many times. But then I look at a guy like Tyler Thomas and think, where did he come from? I mean, I didn't see it coming going into the year, and here he is as one of the premier pitchers in the Big 12. What do you make of his rise to really conference stardom this season?
Tyler's had a very, very roller coaster career. As a freshman, he started a lot, had success here and there, but didn't throw a lot of strikes. Came out the second year, didn't make many improvements, and then he get to the bullpen, really found his confidence, throwing strikes, and then he had a great fall. I mean, he came out like gangbusters and took the step forward, so I had no doubt that he would come out in the spring. And, we haven't had him every weekend, unfortunately. I'd like to have him this week, but, the time we put him out there, he's been pretty good for us.
Coach, with that, too, I mean, Blake Helton is a guy that has stepped up that maybe I wasn't ready for him to be in there and have the role that he's had. We're talking preseason about the guys who are going to really anchor this team, and Blake Helton has been one of those. Even what Hayden Kettler's been able to put together, and like we mentioned, Cam Caley, who has thrown some pretty solid innings the last couple of weeks. I mean, those guys bolstering this roster. Of those names, were you expecting this time January for that to be the bread and butter of this pitching staff?
I can't say that I did going in. I know Blake had a really good summer. We were shut down all summer, and some people sat around. Some people took advantage of it. Blake took advantage of it. He got his body stronger, really learned some things, and came back in the fall kind of a different pitcher. The thing that we've been going through this year is how to learn how to deal with the game. It's one thing to get stronger and throw harder, but navigating a lineup, going through the emotions of the game. Blake struggled with that early, but really started to find his role, how to get through it, how to deal with the adversity and making one pitch at a time, all those things, those cliches we go through, and has really grinded some outings here as of late. But no, coming in, I don't think he would have been a guy you'd pencil in. Hayden Kettler is probably the one mainstay that you're always going to pop up in your rotation. He's been doing it for 5 years. But other than that, I wouldn't have guessed that Blake would have been doing what he is, but I'm so glad he is.
I'm glad that you mentioned the summer. I really, when you talk about a lot of these sports, the basketball guys, you can go out in the backyard and shoot a basketball on your hoop or play fives with the guys in the neighborhood. The hitters, a lot of time, you can go out to the batting cages. It's not live arm, but you're seeing something. For these pitchers, I mean, you're looking at your spring's cut short. Your summer, you're doing a lot of remote stuff, and it's so tough to keep in shape and keep your arm ready to go. How did you, as a pitching coach, prepare a Big 12 staff when a lot of those guys were remote for months upon months?
There's not much you can do. You just keep in touch with them to stay healthy. We've got a great strength staff and training staff, monitor them, but it's hard to get guys ready when you don't know what they're getting ready for. When the summer just started, when we got shut down, we always thought, okay, you'll be playing pretty soon. You'll play summer ball. Let's stay in shape. But the longer we went, It's just hard to give those guys information because I just wasn't sure what we were going to do and how long was it going to be before you're going to throw live. And there's some points you got to just kind of shut it down. So I think strength was the biggest thing our guys focused on this summer. If you can't throw live and face hitters, let's get stronger and bigger. And Blake Heldon and Tyler were two guys that really took advantage of that.
On the flip side, when you've got a staff of guys that come in and have gotten the offensive production, like I said, we talked about coming into this season, the older arms juxtaposed with the younger bats. And how well will these guys be able to put up runs? What does the run production look like? And across the board, you had a 17-run inning at one point this season. Those guys are hitting the baseball. How much better, in turn, does that make the pitching staff?
Well, it just takes the pressure off you. We score early a lot. I think we've scored in the first inning, 7 straight games, something like that. So that really takes the pressure off the starter. They don't live with one pitch changing the ball game. They can get comfortable. You can take some chances, throwing the ball in and out and kind of dissecting hitters. So, and to know that our guys can come back from any deficit also takes a little bit of the pressure off it. It allows me to kind of use guys, even if we're down, guys like Jimmy Winston who are long guys that you don't want to use too early because if you use them too long and we don't win the game, then you've kind of blown them out. But you can use guys like that knowing that your offense can come back from any deficit. As long as I can keep guys in the game, this team in the game, with the pitching staff, we have a chance to win any game we're in. So that makes it a little more intriguing.
With that, you coming from Pepperdine with Coach Steve Rodriguez, Coach and I joked, I think a week ago on the show, that at Pepperdine, as long as you score 3 runs and hold the other team to less than 3 runs, that California-style baseball, we're talking some bunts and squeezes, baby. Let's play at West Coast. And now you've got a squad that's just putting up bombs. I mean, this team, from a power standpoint, from a run production standpoint, does that change the way that you approach your pitching staff in general?
Not really. I mean, we're still trying to throw strikes and locate the ball. It's just a little more unforgiving in this conference. The wind blows out every game we play. You just don't have much margin of error. You make a mistake, or even if you don't make a mistake, the ball has a chance to go in a long way. So you still got to do the same things. You got to get strike one, get the first out. Nothing really changes for me. It's just the ERA might be a little higher, and you might give up a few more runs because the wind's blowing straight out pretty much 99% of the time.
Well, you get, in a year like this, you can allow that 6 or 7 runs, and the offense is right there to put up another 9 or 12 for Baylor and keep the good guys on top. And I'm looking Oklahoma State, Oklahoma. My first assessment of those two series is how underrated those two teams were coming into that. I mean, the Big 12 is just that deep that OU and Oklahoma State both deserve postseason bids moving forward this year. Do you concur with that assessment? What do you see out of that Oklahoma and Oklahoma State teams coming off of playing both?
Both very good teams. I mean, I think Oklahoma State is probably done enough to get themselves in. Oklahoma has not had the year that I think they are capable of, but offensively, that was a really hard lineup to navigate this weekend. They can hurt you in so many ways. They got a lot of guys with power, and they got good arms. They haven't pitched real well all year, but I think they pitched well enough this weekend to kind of stymie us a little bit. But as far as if they get into a regional, Oklahoma is a team you don't want to mess with. Now, have they done enough? I'm not too sure, but the team on paper can beat anybody with what they got.
Coach, with that, moving into the Big 12 Conference Championship Tournament, Texas Tech tomorrow at 9 a.m., looking at the scope of the tournament, I'm sure Paul Maneri at LSU would trade his 17 SEC tournament championships for a couple of national titles. How do you strategically work this tournament so that your guys stay loose and stay healthy?
That's a good question. You got to win the first game. That's pretty important. You get into a loser's bracket, it makes things very difficult for a team and a pitching staff. Cam Cayley, we got a freshman going out there tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Hopefully he throws strikes and throws the ball to both sides of the plate and keeps them off balance. It's a pretty dangerous lineup that Tech puts out there every year. I don't know if you could hold too much back. It's decision time when you start using guys because eventually you can't keep using them and they wear down. So, we're a little thinner than normal, but we'll go out there and do everything we can to win the first game. As long as we play catch and throw strikes, we'll be in the game.
Coach, as you see teams like Texas Tech, TCU, Texas, Oklahoma State over the next few days, what does it take for this squad to knock those teams off in this more 1-2 game format in Oklahoma City?
It's the same thing. We throw strikes, we play catch, we win games. The games that we have not caught the ball or thrown enough strikes, we lose. Because the offense, like you said, has been pretty consistent. We know we're going to score some runs, but when we give up a bunch of free runs, then it just makes it a little too difficult for any offense to overcome. But, kind of like Friday night in Oklahoma State, we just gave them way too many free bases. And then the next day we gave, one big free base. And the next day that we beat them, we pitched well and we caught every ball. So that's all it is. It's pretty simple for our team. Catch the ball, throw strikes. The offense will come through and you'll be in the game at the end. And then you get to Luke Boyd, and I like our chances.
Along with that, looking at a guy like Luke Boyd and really your bullpen in general, the a la Madison Bumgarner with the Giants when he pitched like 7 games the World Series that one year. I mean, how much in the postseason when crunch time locks down do you ask of your bullpen, your pitching staff, or even a guy like Luke Boyd?
We've asked a lot for him all year. I think anytime you give Luke the ball, he'll take it. I just got to trust what they tell me. Before the game, I kind of check in with the guys, say where you're at. We've been around long enough together that they'll tell me the truth. And if the kid says he's good to go, we'll throw him out there. If he says, I think Lekic a week ago, I asked him, and he said, Coach, I don't know about today. And if they're in doubt, then I'm not going to pitch them. But you have a good enough relationship. They're old enough. They know when they can do, and they know when they can be effective. So you just got to trust the guys, and they've got us this far.
Well, Coach, going to the Big 12 tournament, and whether it be the pitching staff or the team in general, is there one overarching goal, overarching message coming into this week that this team's really rallying around?
I don't know if there's any message. I mean, we keep it pretty simple with the guys. Just play well. That's it. And we play well, we got a chance to win. There's no pressure. We're not putting goals and saying you have to win this, you got to do that. You just got to take each game as it is and play the team you play and try to do well. We had success against Tech. We played well against them. K-State as well in our bracket. And TCU, not so well, but we owe them. So they just got to take each game at a time. I can't look to the future because you just don't know who you're going to play next.
Well, Coach, I want to thank you for coming on with us today and give you our Bear Games question of the day that's actually centered around baseball, thanks to you guys being in the Big 12 Championship Tournament this week. And today's question is, if you could send Baylor baseball to a big league stadium to play a 3-game series against another college team, any college team, which stadium are you sending these guys to, and who are you squaring off with?
Well, I would send us to Dodger Stadium because that's where I'm from, and that's my favorite team. Who would we play? That's a good question. Probably TCU. We were at Pepperdine a few years ago. We played a super regional there, and they broke our hearts. We were 2 outs away from going to Omaha, so it would be good to beat them on that kind of stage.
Beating TCU is always fun in general, even with the Pepperdine love there. Well, Coach, I know I said that was my last question, my Bear Games question, but tell me, the barbecue in Texas is so much better than it is out in California, right?
I don't think there's any doubt about that. I think that's pretty simple. Now, I will say the Mexican food in California is better than it is in Texas.
Wow.
Sorry.
You won the show today, and then you just went par right there. You just went right there. Coach, I want to thank you again for joining us today. It's a pleasure to have you on and get your perspective going into the week, taking the time. It means a lot to us, and best of luck this week. Excited to watch you guys go out there tomorrow at the crack of dawn.
Yeah, get up early. Appreciate you having us.
Absolutely. Thanks again, Coach Strauss. Again, Jon Strauss, the Baylor pitching coach, joining the show today to talk to us about their week coming up in Bricktown in the Big 12 tournament. They got Texas Tech tomorrow at 9 a.m. We're going to talk to Jeff Haxton, the voice of the Red Raiders, today via phone at 1:30, talking Big 12 tournament action and what Baylor has to look for in Texas Tech, the same team they went on the road to beat 2 out of 3 games in Lubbock. Can they do it again? I'm Drake Toll. We got Armstrong Sims, Marquise Cooley, Jack McKenzie. When we come back from this break, we're joined by Grayson Grundhafer for the Big Board, talking some football, some recruiting, where Baylor stands as of right now as compared to last week, because a whole lot has changed. Jacob Gall, baby. Let's talk some more about Jacob Gall. Again, Drake Toll, Marquise Cooley, Armstrong Sims, Jack McKenzie. When we come back, Grayson Grundhafer in the Big Board. Don't go anywhere. This is Up Tempo.